Hello, welcome to the channel. In this video, will be seeing how to create a regional GKE cluster. Uh, so basically, let's start with why we need a regional cluster. So basically, for example, in the earlier video, we saw how to create a uh, zonal cluster, standard zonal cluster. So zonal clusters are nothing but your control plane will be hosted in a single availability zone. So, say for example, if there is an outage or any kind of network outage for that specific availability zone where your control plane is hosted, and also your uh, node pool, if it is a uh, having only the nodes allocated hosted on a single availability zone. What happens is that all your workloads and also your control plane will be down during that outage, and your applications will face a downtime. So to avoid that, we go with the regional cluster. So in case of regional cluster, what happens if there is any availability zone outage or something like that? Your control plane is always available in another availability zone, so that you can uh, make changes your cluster to your workloads, scale your workloads, scale down your workloads if you are doing something by talking to the control plane, the API server, so API endpoint. So those things you can do with regional clusters, right? So um, yeah, so the same goes to your node pool as well. For regional cluster, by default, GKE replicates the node pool specific nodes across the availability zones. So yeah, so it is to make sure that your workloads are also available when there is availability zone outage. But while deploying workloads, you have to handle that and make sure that you have your application parts distributed across these availability zones to uh, uh, utilize this feature, the functionality that you will be getting from the regional GKE cluster, right? So yeah, now for node pools, you can also have the node pools specific to a single availability zone also. You will have options to do that. So we'll see that as we go ahead and create the cluster in the console. Uh, right. So now let's start with the uh, cluster creation. And also the other thing is that the node pool should be within the same region where you create the regional cluster. So let's proceed with creating the cluster, and I'll show you all the details. So yeah, this is the usual cluster creation page. You have to change to switch to standard cluster. We'll be seeing autopilot regional cluster. So in a separate video. So let's start with naming our clusters. So it will be standard regional uh, cluster console. So we'll also see how to create the regional cluster from the CLI. So we'll name this cluster accordingly, the console uh, description. So naming. So yeah, here in the location type is where you make cluster zonal or a regional cluster. So let's choose the regional option now, because we are going to create a regional cluster. I'll choose the US Central 1 region. You will also have options to choose your availability zones here for your node locations. So you can choose it here. So for example, I'm going to choose US Central 1A, 1C, and 1F. So the rest of the things we are not going to touch anything. We are going to go with further settings, no field registration related things. The default node pool. So here we can choose the number of nodes. I'm gonna reduce it to one, uh, and to have the minimal nodes running, right? So I'm gonna reduce it to one, and I'm not gonna enable auto scaler. Here we have the node location specifications. If you have to put your node pools in a custom availability zone, apart from the anything different than the control plane, right? That also you can do. For example, I'm going to choose a 1B, and uncheck one app. So let's see how this goes, right? So yeah, we're not gonna touch anything. The node settings, the image type, the machine type. We're not gonna touch. I'm gonna just reduce the disk size. Um, Nothing on network side changes we are going to make. Security also we are not gonna make any changes. Uh, Metadata, if you would like to put something, you can put. Uh, Automation, nothing. We are not gonna put scaling or any maintenance windows or stuff. Networking, we are gonna leave the cluster accessible for external IP addresses. So not gonna change anything here. So you see here the network used is the default auto mode VPC, and the subnet for this region gets automatically chosen based on which region you select for the cluster period. And so yeah, we're not gonna touch anything else. Let's move ahead. Security side, nothing you're gonna change. Backup is as it is, metadata is as it is, and let's go to features and disable logging, monitoring, and manage service for Prometheus, which we are not gonna use for this video and to avoid costs. So um, yeah, so that's pretty much it. So we have done all the cluster configurations. So if you would like to have a CLI command, you can use the uh, this option to have your CLI command for all the settings that you made, and you can have it uh, used on your script or something like that. So for now, I'll close this and I'll proceed with cluster creation. So yeah, it's getting submitted. So yeah, the cluster creation has started. Side by side, we'll go ahead and start creating our CLI cluster also. So I've opened the um, CloudShell here. So here we already have the GKE training project selected, which we are going to use for the cluster creation. And also you can, to confirm, you can run this command and check for all the configured details, which project is selected, which account is selected and stuff. So let's proceed with uh, creating a CLI cluster from the CloudShell, which will be a regional cluster. So let's put Gcloud uh, container clusters create. Uh, I have the details uh, already captured in my notepad session. I'm gonna copy that, paste it here. So basically, what we have here is that the cluster name, which is standard regional cluster CLI, and the region which we will be creating the cluster in, US Central 1. Maybe for to have this differentiated, maybe I can use a different region, right? And I'll put the number of nodes to 1. Why I'm doing this is there is a quota problem when you don't mention this. GKE creates 3 uh, nodes in your node pool per region, sorry, availability zone. So we have a IP problem in regional in use IP address problem, which has a quota set to 8. For example, if you want to change it to that specific region which we are going to create the cluster in, and check US West 1. So we have only 8 IP addresses. So if we put 3, if you don't reduce the node count, it will go to 9 nodes, which will be 3 per availability zone, and then we'll hit a quota issue. The cluster creation is gonna fail. So I'm gonna proceed with this command. So yeah, the cluster creation is in progress. So basically, I tried requesting for a quota increase. I didn't get it because this is a new project and there is no previous billing for this, and the Google team denied it. So we have to go with the limited options we have. So yeah, the cluster creation is being in progress. So you see that both the clusters are in uh, being created. So what I'll do, I'll pause this video and I'll resume it once the clusters creations are completed, and then we'll go inside to the cluster to see the how the configurations differ for a regional cluster. So the cluster creation is complete now. So if you see here for the CLI, we have the cluster details outputted, so including the name, location, uh, master version, the IP address for the cluster API server endpoint, the node version, machine type, number of nodes, and the status of the cluster. So I'll minimize this. So here we have the two clusters that we created. Let's first go into the console cluster. We choose US Central 1 region, and the default node zones we chose are 1A, 1C, and 1F. So that's and also you can see the location type is regional, which is what we chose in the option for the location type. So yeah, that's pretty much the change you are going to see here. You will still have a single IP address for your API server endpoint, and also a single private IP address. This is the public IP, this is the private IP. So yeah, so if you scroll down, you're gonna see the usual settings, the default settings for the cluster. I'm gonna go here, go into nodes to see what difference we see here. So you have the default node pool that we configured it during the cluster creation. So we have number of nodes, three. There will be one node, which is what we asked for per zone. So total of three nodes. So I'm going to go inside. So for the node pool, we choose 1A, 1B, and 1C. We didn't choose 1F. Uh, right. So that's what you see here. Uh, so basically, if you scroll down and take your instance groups, so you have three instance groups created for each availability zone. Uh, and then you have one node per uh, availability zone per instance group here. So you can go inside the node pool to check the details. So this node belongs to 1B, and if you go back to this page again, go back to the second node. This node belongs to 1C, and if you go to the third node, on details, yeah, it is one. So spread across the three availability zones that we chose. So yes, so now let's go to the CLI cluster that we created in the US West 1 location. So uh, the cluster type is regional as well. The region is US West 1 as we chose. So Google automatically chose the default node zones, which are B, C, and A. So as we said, Google by default uses three availability zones per region for a regional cluster control plane, and also the node pool. So yeah, the total size is three. So you have the same kind of setup, like you have a single public endpoint, you have a single private endpoint for the API service for the cluster. So go to the nodes. Uh, so here we have the node pool. Number of nodes is three, one per zone. So let's go inside the node pool, and so yeah, sorry. So here we have the node zones B, C, A, which are the same zones as the cluster availability zones that was chosen. So basically, Google chooses the default same uh, zones that were chosen for the control plane for your node pool. Also, if you don't mention anything specifically that you need. So here we have three instance groups, one per availability zone, and we have three instances, one per availability zone running here. So let's go inside the uh, nodes and check the details. I opened it in a new tab. So if you go here, so go to details, the node is in 1B. The second node it is in 1C, and the third node it is in 1A. So let us go to the things, we don't need it here. CloudShell gets open automatically. So 1B, 1C, 1A. So three nodes spread across the three availability zones. So yeah, so that's basically how to create a regional cluster from a console and also from a CLI. So let me maximize this. I'll ask for it to be reconnected. Uh, so yeah, so as we saw the how the cluster creation, regional cluster creation is done through the console and CLI. Let's uh, have this session completed by proceeding with having the clusters deleted. So you you choose the delete option and then input all the necessary values like cluster name and the region where your cluster is, and then you enter. So this is gonna ask for a prompt. Do you want to continue? Yes. Sorry. So yeah, so it's getting deleted. So if you minimize this, uh, yeah, if you see the cluster, the CLI cluster is getting deleted. So for the console cluster, we'll do the deletion from the console itself. So copy paste the class. Sorry, we copy the name, paste it. Make sure you don't have any spaces. So and then click on delete. So it's getting submitted. So you yeah, so this cluster is also getting deleted. So that's pretty much how to create a regional GKE cluster from the console and also from the CLI. So with this, we'll close this video. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks.